This is why I'm up in the Sierra and I wake up at 4 a.m. to catch the sunrise. And the Mountaineers are out on Mount Whitney. Let's go. Whew.
With my time in California fast approaching its end since I was moving, I wanted to make one last trip to the Eastern Sierra for the 2023 season. I did not know when I would return to these mountains, and so I wanted to finish my time here with a route that I have long regarded as a true test of mountaineering skill. With permits easy to snag due to the record winter year, I would return at the end of July to the Whitney Portal zone. I would approach from Whitney Portal. However, instead of continuing on this trail, I would take Climber's Right to continue on the other way up Mount Whitney. For the last episode of Season 2 of Solo in the Sierra, I will be climbing an Eastern Sierra classic, the Mountaineer's Route on Mount Whitney. This route was first climbed by John Muir, who in October of 1873 did it solo. It has been climbed across all 4 seasons in almost any condition. With the record snowpack, the majority of the route would remain snowbound and in late spring conditions for my ascent. The route begins at Whitney Portal, following Mount Whitney Trail. However, after only 3/4 of a mile, the trail branches to Climber's Right, following the North Fork of Lone Pine Creek. The first technical challenge is crossing the 3rd Class E ledges. Afterwards, it's an easy ascent to Lower and Upper Boy Scout Lake. I would make camp at Upper Boy Scout Lake, then continue to Iceberg Lake, a steep 1¼ mile ascent with 1,400 feet of elevation gain. I would make one final camp and then climb the 3rd Class Mountaineers Route at dawn on the 3rd day. This ascent would follow the standard Class 2 trail to Trail Crest, then Uncle Sane down the infamous chute. From here, it would be a relative cakewalk on the highway back to Whitney Portal. The route would total 13.4 miles with close to 6,500 feet of elevation gain. After turning Climber's Right at the junction with the North Fork of Lone Pine Creek, I would follow a trail up the valley. With all the avalanche debris, route finding became extremely difficult, and I eventually lost the actual trail.
So I got up that gully right there. Turns out it wasn't the trail if it is. There's an even harder move about 100 feet up from that I didn't feel comfortable out. So, I mean, this looks like a trail, so I'm just gonna down climb. I see a trail across the creek, so I'm gonna cross the creek. Well, we have found the trail again. I went up the gully on the other side of this face here. That was a little sketchy.
Me being the silliest of geese, had ascended some sort of goat trail in a gully. This didn't feel right, especially with the chalk stone blocking the gully further up. I had climbed up some low 5th class face along the way that was extra spicy on the down climb. I really don't recommend going this way. Eventually, I would find the correct trail that would lead to the E-ledges.
E-ledges, baby. Woo!
For the 3rd Class E-ledges, traverse Climber's Right or east for a while, and do not force a direct ascent up too soon. Eventually, the trail cuts back to Climber's Left or to the west. After the E-ledges, the terrain is fairly easygoing up to Lower Boy Scout Lake. The shaded area on the flat rock adjacent to the lake made for a solid place to rest up. My advice is to stay high and to climbers left when approaching Upper Boy Scout Lake, as this will avoid pretty dense patches of willows lower down near the North Fork of Lone Pine Creek.
Nice. Not as good as you, but oh. This is nature's slip and slide right here. Next stop, Lower Boy Scout Lake.
Don't get me wrong, this slip and slide was tempting for sure, but I opted out since I didn't pack my swim trunks. I enjoyed this low-angled slab on the approach to Upper Boy Scout Lake.
I gotta say, this view behind me is probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Well, this right here behind me is my bivvy spot for the night. It's a supreme spot, if I say so myself. I mean, check out that view. You don't get that every day. What I'm gonna do is hang around here probably tomorrow morning, and then go up to Iceberg Lake. It's about 1,000 feet above me, behind that ridge right there, and then camp there, and then the Mountaineers are out. Sometimes you just gotta kick your feet up on a rock and take it in for what it's worth. So,
Upper Boy Scout Lake provides a good place to stop on an overnight or multi-day trip. From the trailhead, it is 3.2 miles with 3,800 feet of elevation gain. Camping here helps break up the steep ascent, and you get a nice treat with breathtaking views.
We are leaving Upper Boy Scout Lake, headed up to Iceberg Lake. Yeah, had a really great stay at Upper Boy Scout Lake. Just love looking at that ridge line right there, and then the reflection off the lake. It was what a charming little place. Oh, we just had Mount Whitney and then Keeler Needle, Discovery Pinnacle coming to view here, and they look quite magnificent.
Mount Whitney holds a commanding view on the approach to Iceberg Lake, and for me at least, my palms started to sweat thinking about the Mountaineers' route tomorrow. On the approach, just follow the snowpack or glacial moraine west to reach Iceberg Lake.
So to get to Iceberg Lake, we have to go up this little chute here. Be a nice warm up for the Mountaineers route, which is tucked behind that right there. Let's go.
Upon reaching Iceberg Lake, a glider flew over the top of Mount Whitney, which was cool to witness. From here, the route looked nearly vertical, even though the slope averages 40 degrees in the couloir. Iceberg Lake provides a perfect vantage point to assess the conditions on the Mountaineer's route, save for the final 400. My game plan was to climb the couloir to climber's right, rather than scramble on the Class 3 rock to climber's left. I never got anxious mountaineering before, but looking at this route sent my anxiety through the roof. I would try to get some sleep before the big day tomorrow. In all honesty, I've never been this fired up for an alpine start. Today was game day on the Mountaineer's route.
It's a very peaceful morning. A few clouds off on the horizon. I have to watch those as the day goes on, but yeah, you can see Mount Russell. Woo! This is why I'm up in the Sierra and I wake up at 4 a.m. to catch the sunrise. The Mountaineers are out on Mount Whitney. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Let's get to the top. All right, the notch is probably about 300 feet right there. We're gonna take a little break right there, a little lunch, eat some breakfast, hydrate before the final push to the notch. Probably another 200 feet left to go, I'd say. Ooh. All right, well the snow's starting to peter out. I'm just gonna follow this line up until it actually ends and then swap out my crampons. I'd rather stay in the snow versus walking on all that loose scree there. Especially with the climber who's down below me, so I'm coming up the smaller chute. Two skiers right, so my right looking down. Just don't want to kick anything onto him. Kind of a tale of two cities. You have this guy down there who's been on the rock the entire way up probably, and you have me who's been on the snow the entire way up. Funny how that works out, isn't it?
By this point, I'm sure you have recognized the kooky white tape on my fingers. I had to improvise since I left all my gloves in the car. Rookie move.
Woo-wee. Yeah.
I decided to stay to Climber's Right, where solid Class 3 and 4 friction slab existed. This was better than clinging to Class 3 scree in the middle.
Oh, baby. Let's go.
Reaching the notch was a huge accomplishment. Only one other climber followed me up the Mountaineer's route that morning. From one Scotsman to another, it was pretty badass to see him in a kilt. The notch provides a phenomenal view to the north of two 14ers. With Mount Russell in the foreground, I got a solid view of the East Ridge, and will need to return to solo that someday. In the background was a peak that got me into all this trouble and Type 2 fun. Good old Mount Williamson.
All right, I'm gonna start the Class 2 traverse. As you can see, the final 400 feet's wet and then icy and snowy, so gonna bypass that. If I was with someone with some protection like cams and ice shoes, I'd probably hit that, but not today.
From the notch, climbers can take either the final 400, a Class 3 climb with some Class 4 or 5 variations, denoted in red, or traverse along a Class 2 route to the west, denoted in green. The latter of which I opted for due to the sus entry into the final 400 and the fact that I was solo.
You can see the precipitous north face of Mount Whitney right there. Don't want to take a wrong turn or take a slip. Got a long ways down. Little airy.
A solid line of snow led to the top of the ridgeline here, and so I decided that it was time to go vertical.
I'll call that the Nate McDonald variation, class 3.
With the crux of the climb behind me, it was now an easy walk to the summit.
Woo-hoo! We have the hut, Mount Whitney, summit in sight. Whew. My goodness, that was a trip. Fuck. Hell yeah. Let's go.
Having climbed this route, I guess now I can look and play the part of a mountaineer. I spent a good half hour up there, enjoying the views and reflecting on my time in the Sierra over the past year before I was moving to the flat state of Florida. To anyone who has yet to visit these mountains, I hope my videos have encouraged you to step outside and venture in them. And to those that have, I hope that they bring back good memories of sapphire blue skies, thin mountain air, and the world-class Sierra granite.
Let's go. Just, you know the glissade, right?
Huh?
You know the glissade?
Not really.
Okay.
You don't,
No, don't do that,
you don't
because
do that?
keep your left hand over the pick like this, right hand under the butt, and then use that to control your speed, okay? Wait until I'm down where Aaron is, and then I'll give you the go-ahead.
On Trail Crest, I met a climber who had mild hypothermia, acute mountain sickness, and was left by his group to continue on to the summit. He was in a pretty bad spot, and so I showed him how to glissade and get safely down. What goes up must come down. So I recommend knowing how to glissade so you don't become a cat stuck in a tree at 13,000 feet. We thankfully both made it safely down to trail camp where we recovered. The Mountaineer's route did live up to its reputation, and I can confirm it is indeed an Eastern Sierra classic. However, I have to go back to finish that final 400 someday.